Ocean Pines is a vibrant residential community nestled on Maryland's eastern shore. With over 9 miles of waterfront property, amenities like an 18-hole championship golf course and a public yacht club, and a rich history dating back to 1968. Of course, if you live here, you probably know most of that. And if you don't, it's almost all apparent from your first visit. Each week on the Pines Cast, we work to bring out the ocean pines that might be less apparent. We celebrate the region, the amenities, and, most of all, the people who make and keep Ocean Pines a special place to live. Welcome to the Pines Cast, your source of news and insights about Ocean Pines and the official podcast of the Ocean Pines Association. Hi, I am Tony Russo, your host, and this week on the podcast, we are speaking with John Latham, the newly elected board president and a longtime enthusiast, let's say, about how things go at Ocean Pines. We talked to him about how he got here and why he chose to serve in this way, and some of the things he sees coming forward for Ocean Pines. Please hang on after the credits because there's more to talk about. I want to give you some insights to this show. But right now, let's get to this conversation with John. So congratulations on your recent-ish election. This is going to come out in another 2 weeks. So this comes out toward the middle of September. But I wanted, before we talk about the election and how you got there, I wanted to talk about how you got to Ocean Pines. So can you tell me how long have you lived in Ocean Pines and what brought you there?
Yeah, absolutely. My wife and I bought a condo here in Ocean Pines about 15 years ago. We were part-time. I grew up in Pasadena, Maryland. Initially, we bought the condo as we thought was going to be, we would flip it within 3 or 5 years. But we found out that we really love Ocean Pines and we'll be, making this our forever home. About 5 years ago, we sold our primary residence in Pasadena and moved here full time. Our daughters are grown and they're local, so it just made sense for us. And we've actually haven't looked back 1 minute. I grew up coming to Ocean City as a kid. Back in the early '80s, I worked for Phillips Crab House during the summer, so it was obviously Ocean Pines, probably the best job I ever had, and knew of Ocean Pines, but always felt like, hey, that's where you go to retire.
Right.
So here I am, very, very close to retiring a couple more years to work, but here I am, and it's just been a wonderful place, and we absolutely adore it.
It's kind of like the game of life. You get there, and then, that's where I go to retire. So I do have to ask you, only because you said about 5 years ago, that sounds COVID-y to me. Did you come before, during, or after COVID?
During. My wife said, hey, let's sell. I work remote. She said, let's sell our house. And I was like, yeah, that's in the plan. She goes, no, next week we have a real estate agent coming to put it up for sale. So it happened very quickly. So
wow.
COVID. And it absolutely happened during COVID. And it was faster than I would have liked to have seen, but it worked out well.
And so what was the transition like? I mean, there's not a lot, there's a lot of what's going on now, but like when you getting movers and things like that, was it because I know a lot, there was kind of like an exodus from elsewhere and an entranists to here at the beginning of COVID. So was that pretty much without incident, or did you have trouble finding people?
No, we had a fully furnished condo here. We had a fully furnished
that's right.
house. So we, in essence, sold everything, almost every piece of furniture, almost everything in our house. We downsized from a pretty large house to a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. So we become what they refer to as a minimalist.
Yeah.
Because we have no room. So we just basically sold everything and packed up our clothes and a couple of things. Everything else was sold pretty much.
And so what was it like your first couple years of full-time living in Ocean Pines? Because, I mean, I guess you saw it's not quite a retirement community anymore.
Right. Yeah, no, I was certainly amazed at how many full-time residents that live here. We kind of fit right in. We, through the years, we made a lot of really good friends, even some of our friends from Philadelphia that we kind of joke with. But we made a lot of friends. And Tony, we really didn't look back. We kind of moved and kind of stepped on. My family's still from the Anne Arundel County area. And, we go up there and visit as we need. My mom still lives in the house that I grew up in.
Mm.
And, we go there back home, as needed, but we haven't really looked back. It was kind of seamless, I'd say.
Excellent. And so how did you just, once you were a full-time resident, is that when you started to get involved with Ocean Ponds? Were you already kind of involved in clubs and things before you were full-time?
No, once I became full-time, I knew I wanted, I really enjoy volunteering, and I have a pretty large background in with many different organizations. I just really enjoyed, I think I probably enjoyed the interaction with folks and kind of problem solving the most. But yeah, wasn't until I became full-time. I felt that I just didn't have the time. I traveled pretty extensively for my previous job. I just felt that I needed to be here. And I haven't regretted any of it.
And so how did you choose? So we in the pre-interview, you said you were involved with the marina. I guess you're a boat owner?
Yes.
So tell me about that. Was that part of your factor for deciding to go full-time in Ocean Pines because you had the marina there?
Well, we bought the boat after we became full-time. But, I looked at the Marine Activities Committee. I thought, hey, this is a good way to get involved in something that I enjoy. And again, I could get some perspective on kind of the, how things worked around Ocean Pines. At that point, I hadn't considered the board. However, I was the president of our sub-association, kind of walked into that one. I didn't know that I was getting that job. I think nobody wanted it, so I got it by acclamation, I guess. But yeah, once I did that, I thought, I got to see kind of some of the things that were going on, and it kind of inspired me to think, hey, I think I got something to offer the community.
So let's just go back a little bit. When you say you kind of walked into that job, can you tell me kind of the circumstances and what was it like? What's it like to be to be the president of a very small association like that? Like, what are the kind of day-to-day struggles or challenges, or are there any?
The president of the association at the time was selling his unit, so there was an open position. So the existing board kind of recruited me, and I said I was interested. And then they said, well, the position open is the president. I said, well, I'm brand new. I don't really know what's going on here. They're like, you'll be fine. But the difference is that we have a management company, Man Property, out of Ocean City, is our property manager. So we have a property manager. So the board's responsibilities there are kind of mostly around budget approval, approving expenses, kind of coming together on kind of what our annual plan looks like and what kind of, what our strategic plan looks like around reserve studies. We have elevators in our buildings, one of our bigger expenses.
Yeah.
So kind of understanding, what our plan looks like, because we have 4 different buildings. So again, we have the luxury of having a property manager that has the expertise and has the reach for suppliers. So whether it's pest control, landscaping, trash removal, doing bidding for our insurance, and all the maintenance of the buildings, because the buildings are about 25 years old. So they're not, obviously not getting younger. So they require more maintenance. So we do have the luxury of having a property manager kind of at our beck and call.
That's got to be a little bit easier. And I guess with 4 buildings, you've got, unless there's, some sort of catastrophic failure, you've got a sense of when things are going to need to be replaced and how.
That's correct.
And then how about getting involved with the marina? What was that all about? How did that happen?
Yes. So again, I saw an opening. I knew 1 or 2 of the board members at the time, and I knew the chairperson of the committee at the time. And I just talked, and I said, well, I don't really know what it's all about. I'll be happy to join and see if I can, bring value to it. But, helping kind of, it could be anything from putting communications out for boater safety, having boats safety checks, buoy placement around the committee. One of the things that would always come up would be dredging around the community.
Right.
Kind of keeping the folks or the community aware of, what areas are going to be dredged, because we have a lot of areas in these canals, as you may know, have, very, very low water. But for me, it was more about kind of the process of how you would go about, the committees have a board liaison. They communicate through a board liaison. The board liaison would take that information back to the general manager and or the board, depending on what the requirement or what the ask is. So it was for me, it was good to kind of understand most about kind of process.
And were there any particular highlights during that time? Were you overseeing it for any kind of major changes?
One of the changes that the group was able to implement, there's water quality. So they work with ST Coastal Trust and Maryland Coastal Bays and bringing in kind of understanding and putting awareness. I think it's mostly about awareness to our community about water quality. There was, and there still is right now, some oyster cages around the community, to clean water and evaluate what that quality is. Again, we don't have biologists or scientists on the committee, so we work closely again with those organizations to help bring awareness to the community.
When you say help bring awareness, is that really just letting people know the whens and wheres, or was there like a why education thing that you had that you undertook?
Yeah, so it's mostly letting making the awareness being what's going on, where we are, how are we making improvement with water quality. We participate with the with the various groups and volunteer to go out for ghost crab pots is the thing around the community.
Yeah.
So anything, it's again more, I'd say probably most educational.
And so when did you decide that you wanted to run for the board?
So I'm 2 years in, probably about 2.5, 3 years ago, I knew there was going to be a few openings on the board. I didn't really know anyone. I knew Rick Farr and Doug Parks at the time, and Doug was coming off, and Rick was on there, so kind of get some feeling. I chatted with them. I've chatted with many past board members that served. My biggest fear was not my ability, but would be the time commitment to. I wanted to make sure that I would be available to put the time in to run and learn. And I spent probably several months before I decided to run. Look, if we go to Ocean Pines website, we got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of documents to read. So there's, a lot of easy reading in there for bylaws and resolutions and past history. And I watched the last 10 years of the candidate forums to try to understand, kind of what would be required. And then I decided that I thought, trying to think when it was, when we first, the communication came out that they were going to be, opening for candidates. And I'm not kind of a person that just says, hey, I'll throw my hat in the ring and maybe I'll get there. I absolutely was planning on being elected. And I was fortunate that I was elected. I don't regret it at all. I enjoy it. I probably enjoy the most, again, about interacting with our community. As I say to a lot of folks, I said, look, if you have questions, we'll get them to you. I'm not going to guarantee you'll like the answer, but we will get you the answer. So I just really enjoy it. We have a wonderful general manager. He has a great leadership team. They're the folks that are actually on the ground making it happen, bringing things to fruition each and every day.
Hey there, listeners. Are you in the Ocean Pines area and looking for a pharmacy that goes above and beyond? Look no further than Title Health Home Scripts. Open 6 days a week, our knowledgeable pharmacists are ready to fill your prescriptions in just minutes. Plus, we offer free home delivery in the Ocean Pines area and have a super convenient drive-through window. Need over-the-counter items? We've got a large selection. And with our monthly sales, you'll find everything you need at great prices. Conveniently located at the north gate of Ocean Pines, Title Health Home Scripts is open Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. To fill a prescription or arrange for a free home delivery, give us a call at 410-543-4769. That's 410-543-4769. Remember, That's Title Health Home Scripts, your trusted pharmacy partner. Now, was there a particular issue that got your attention, or did you just feel like it was time to take another step up? Or
Yeah, I thought. I did. There was not a particular topic that I was kind of hanging on. I thought it was time that I stepped up and feel that I could bring leadership to the community.
And so what was the difference between your first year and second year serving on the board?
Oh, good question. I think it was just it was more of a learning. The first year I was probably a little more quiet to just kind of understand how the whole process worked. Just something as simple as the Robert's rules during our meetings, making sure that we're doing the right thing, we're following the right process, and now kind of being here the second year, kind of understanding really how we need to bring things to fruition and get things done. Whether it's the fire department or budgeting is obviously very, very important, and we'll be getting into that here in the coming months. But just understanding how kind of operations runs and making sure that the board, entire board, is supporting our general manager and his leadership team, and we are not getting into day-to-day operations. At some point, I thought maybe early that, hey, the board could communicate with the leadership team, meaning the various department leaders, and that's certainly not a good way to do business. I mean, a board of directors is helping to advise and not get into day-to-day operations. And I think in the past there are some situations where that did happen, and it just doesn't create harmony for our general manager and his leadership team.
And so, kind of along those lines, when you did you just think about that and decide that made more sense, or was there something you had in mind, and then when you thought about it, you're like, oh, it would be better if we didn't stick our noses in and we just asked the general manager to get this particular thing done?
We try to work around a plan. So we have a 5-year strategic plan, and that's around with roads, drainage, and bulkheads, because that's a lot of questions that we get that come in, and some homeowners just are maybe unclear. They may write directly to a director and ask them for something to be done.
Right.
They don't copy the general manager. They don't copy all the directors, and that way it kind of gets kind of messed up a little bit.
I see.
Especially if the board member tries to take that on his or herself. But we kind of funnel it so we have a process to take it through the general manager, through our info website, so we can have that repository of information, so that we know how many times someone's called about the beach club or the yacht club or whatever, if it's an amenity or a bulkhead or something. But we just need to be smart and thoughtful about how we handle that information.
Right. And as someone who is elected as kind of an elected leader, you do have that immediate response is, well, somebody asked me to do something, I should do it. And it doesn't, I can see how easily someone could forget that there's a chain of command for a reason.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
And so when it came time to elect a president, how did you decide to did you throw your name out? Did someone throw your name out for you? How did that whole process?
It was a little bit of both. Some of the other board members had asked if I had interest. I had shown, I had told them that I would definitely be interested in taking the role, and we kind of, there was some conversation, and when we met a couple weeks ago, I was nominated.
And was there a particular attraction, or is this, were you like, well, I know that these things are coming up and I would like to be able to guide them in some way? Or was it just that it was time for a new president? What was your decision-making process?
Yeah, I think I don't think, but we have, regardless who was going to be the president, I would say that the majority, if not all of the board, is kind of aligned on the projects that need to happen. So whether that was me or someone else, there are several projects that need to get taken care of over the next year. And we just need to make sure that we were aligned and supporting progress.
And I'm sorry, was there anything particular or?
No, there was nothing particular. The cell tower improvement, reserve studies getting ready to be done, continued support of our strategic plan, continued fiscal responsibility. We have to get the Southside Fire Station. Hopefully we're breaking ground, late fall, and continue to support our general manager. And we're aligned on what needs to be done. We want to continue to march to those orders that we've kind of established.
What are you looking forward to? For instance, because you brought up the budget earlier, so like you're going to be on the other side of it, right? You're going to be kind of like setting the agenda for the budget this time, as opposed to following the agenda. So, is that something that you're ready to do? Is that something you're excited about?
Oh, absolutely. Our association's in great financial shape. As I'd mentioned, we're in a process of getting our 5-year reserve study done. We believe we'll be aligned there as well. The new relationship with Touch of Italy and our food and beverage is very, very exciting. It's off to a great start from a financial perspective. Going in, I have a pretty strong background in finance and budgeting, so I'm a little bit of a nerd that way. So I'm looking forward to it.
So that is that's always the fun part when you get to do something that you're already good at. There's not as much, so the learning curve you feel is going to be a lot less on the budget running.
Yeah, and I attend I'm not the liaison to the budget and finance committee, but I do listen in every month. We look forward to our results, which are always magnificent. But at some point, we want to just make sure, how do we continue with the success and that we've achieved thus far.
Do you have any like personal goals? Like what would you like to see you be doing in another year or two? Is this something that you'd like to continue to do? Do you see yourself as a long-term board participant, or do you think another couple years and then you'll be done with it? How does that look? What does the future look like?
Well, at this point, I'm in my third year, my first term. As you may know, you can only run twice 2 3-year terms. I mean, at this point, I would say, there's nothing to that I think why I wouldn't continue
right.
in the future. My goal is to make sure that we, as an association, support our leadership team and our general manager to continue the efforts that we have and then continue to improve decisions that we're making today for the fire department. They're going to be here. These things are going to be here for the next couple generations. And that's kind of what does Ocean Pines look like the next 50 or 60 years, right?
Right.
Things that we try to put in place today that are long-term investments for our community and making sure that our owners have the best value in their assessment dollars are wisely used.
Excellent. And that is pretty much all I have for you. Unless you have something else for me, is there something I should have asked and didn't, or something you thought you'd get the opportunity to say, but I didn't provide it to you?
Yeah. So what I'd like to kind of emphasize is that owners that are interested in getting their information to Ocean Pines, we have a info@oceanpines.org was created, I don't know, a couple years ago. And it's really a great repository for our information. And I'd encourage our owners to make sure that they utilize that to get their information to the board, as well as they can send it directly to the board of directors as well. We're in a society that has so many different social media outlets that oftentimes I get information. Folks will send me like a cut and pasted, someone is not happy in Ocean Pines or they are happy in Ocean Pines, but they put it on their friend's website. I can just assure you that Ocean Pines isn't policing
right
these other social media sites. We need to know. We don't know unless we get the information. And I really believe that if someone's really truly interested in getting the answer, that they'll send it to us and make sure that we are aware of it. And again, we utilize that as that repository so we can go back and say, hey, we've got a lot of feedback on the basketball court or whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to action on that. We aren't able to action on random comments on random social media sites. So again, utilizing that info@oceanpines.org is the best way to get information to.
That's an interesting connection because you were talking earlier about how it makes more sense to get in touch directly with the department head or the general manager to make sure that everything gets kept track of. And this is really more of the same of that. That's still part of the same like larger workflow. Like if everybody runs everything through the staff first, more things will get done faster than if they hope someone sees it or point it out to someone rather than say, this is something I like or don't like. This is what I want you to do or not do about it. Right?
That's exactly right. And we don't know about it. We can't do anything about it. And, as I tell folks that, look, we'll get you an answer. I will not guarantee that you'll like the answer, but we will give you an answer because the community deserves to be heard. And it deserves to be responded to. And we can't do anything about it when it's on a random site. If it doesn't come to us, we can't action.
It would be irresponsible of you to just go and pick something random that some stranger said and then try to change the whole community based on that, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Excellent. Well, that is pretty much all I have for you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Great. Thank you so much, Tony. Appreciate it.
That's a great chat. And just to kind of reiterate, if you have anything you need done, the best thing to do is to send an email to info@oceanpines.org. That is info@oceanpines.org. Unless you have a complaint, compliment, or request about the podcast, because that you can send on to me. And my email address is bytonyrusso@gmail.com. That is bytonyrusso@gmail.com. The Pines Cast is an Ocean Pines production. It is written and edited by me, Tony Russo. It is produced by the always on the ball Sarah Ash. If you have not subscribed yet, we would love it if you did so. Just go wherever you're listening now. If it's on your computer, actually grab up your phone and go on your phone and type Pines Cast. And just typing that into pretty much anything will get you to the Pines Cast, where you can subscribe on the podcatcher of your choice. I am so excited for what looks to be a lovely fall on the way, and I hope you are too. And we will see you next time on the Pines Cast.